Hey retro gamers. Today on Smashing Bricks, we travel back to 2001 and we dreamwalk our way through a strange 2.5D world in Klonoa 2 Lunatea's Vale for the PlayStation 2. Hey, welcome back to Smashing Bricks, a retro gaming podcast. This is episode 45. My name is Eddie Inzauto, and today I'm joined by George Albor of the Experience Points podcast. Hey, George, how's it going?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Well, that's quite the question right now, because as some of the Discord members know, I am in a sling. I had shoulder surgery, and now additionally, I'm getting over a cold.
You know, life comes at you fast.
Yeah. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I am tired all the time because I got two young kids and they bring home sicknesses. So I'm right there with you. I feel you.
Oh man. Anyway, so this is your first time here. We know each other from a long time ago when you, I would say briefly, were part of GamerNode.com, wrote a few articles.
That's right.
Then you went off and joined the video game industry. You worked for a few companies. You had your podcast, which has been running for 1,000,000 years, and it's a great podcast that everyone should listen to. What else is new? Who are you?
Oh my gosh, what else is new? Not a whole lot. So I joined the games industry, worked at Ubisoft for a while, which is a wild thing, and then I settled at ArenaNet now, which is fun and very chill. And yeah, still plugging away at the Experience Points podcast. We've been doing that for I don't even remember, something like 12, 15 years, something wild like that,
Yeah.
It would be graduating high school soon.
Exactly. You and I think, were contemporary podcast starters way back in the day.
Yeah.
When I did.
Well, it was such a different, we don't have to get into it, but it was such a different time period just to be talking about games online. Like there was just fewer people, more deeper conversations. It wasn't the kind of strange, I don't know, it feels like you're yelling in an auditorium at this point. So,
Yeah. Well, I think to get to know you a little bit more, this is something I've done with a lot of guests, but I've had a lot of repeat guests lately. This is the first time in a long time. We're going to do a little rapid fire question and answer session.
Nice. Okay.
You ready?
Pineapple does go on pizza. Yes, I'm ready.
Oh, okay. More related to gaming. How long or when did you begin playing video games? What era would you say?
Oh, I know exactly the game that did it. I was 7 years old. It was the NES, and it was a game called Jackal.
Jackal. That's a war one, right? Like
it
is a top-down kind of.
Yep. Top-down Jeep.
Yeah, like Ikari Warriors almost.
Yes.
Ish, I think. Nice.
There's a bar that's walkable to me called Retro Game Bar here in Portland, Oregon. And you pay $6 and it's all you can play retro games. And about a year ago, I went, spent $6, got a beer, and replayed Jackal. And I gotta say, it was pretty sweet.
Yeah, I bet. That would be awesome. I think just the feeling of seeing it, like, oh, that's my game.
Yes, right? 100%.
Yeah. Okay, well, now we're going to do a little rapid fire. They're this or that.
Okay.
Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis?
Super Nintendo.
Nintendo 64 or Sony PlayStation?
PlayStation?
Okay. You
Personally?
made the switch with Square Enix. Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about this when we get into the actual show, I'm sure.
Yeah. Let's do another one of these. These are all on the fly. I did not write these down this time, which I normally do, so I'm just clutching at straws here. Let's do another one of these. How about PlayStation 2 versus Xbox?
Oh, PlayStation 2, hands down. One of the best back catalogs you could ever ask for.
Handheld versus home console?
Oh, gosh. This has changed so many times in my life.
And what does the Switch count as?
The Switch, handheld. I think for me, it's handheld. In my current state in life, the Switch is handheld. My Steam Deck is handheld. Let's go handheld.
Okay. Your favorite genre of video game?
Oh gosh, I mean, I do a podcast on video games. Like I play every genre. Uh, Action RPG. I don't know.
Okay, broad, but I feel you. I feel you. And do you have a favorite game of all time?
I have many favorite games of all time. The one I often say is Journey, and I think that's a good one.
Oh
Journey or
yeah,
Bloodborne. I'll
I
go
know
back and
this.
forth between those two.
Bloodborne. I should ring the bell. Ding. Dark Souls
Was that
reference.
a?
Because we mentioned the FromSoft games. Well, we quote unquote we
As you should.
the royal me mentions Dark Souls at least once an episode, and we got it out of the
Yes.
way. So great. All right, I think
Perfect.
I'll leave it there. People know you. People understand a little bit more about you, I think. So
Yeah.
let's get into this game. This is Klonoa 2, Lunatea's Veil. And this is a game for the PlayStation 2, as we said. And it came out on March 22nd, 2001 in Japan, July 25th of that year in North America, and November 9th in the EU. It was developed by Namco, published by Namco, except for being published by Sony in the EU. And it's a platformer. Puzzle platformer, you think? What do you think? Could
Yes.
we call it
Yes.
that? Okay.
I think so.
Yeah. And it's two-dimensional platforming, but it has these other additional actions you can do by grabbing some of your enemies, and you can perform some of the actions in like a 3D way on the Z axis. But mostly it's two-dimensional movement, even though the world itself kind of wildly swings around and makes it more of a spectacle than simple 2D.
Hmm.
That sound right? Sound like
It
I'm
does.
nailing it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's got like elements of Kirby and Sega or
Mm-hmm.
Sonic. Yeah.
Yeah. We've got cell shaded characters, sort of, partially, halfway cell shaded, or maybe they're just
Yeah.
heavily outlined. I don't know. And a polygonal world that is surreal, as Klonoa we discovered is a dream walker of sorts, which
Yeah.
we made the mistake of choosing Klonoa. Well, I made the mistake of choosing Klonoa 2 because it was the one that I had recalled being more prevalent in online discourse over the years.
Hmm.
Maybe
Yeah.
because I was more in tune around the time of this release than during the Klonoa 1 Door to Phantomile time. But it means that I got the first game spoiled, and there's kind of an important element of the end of it that I think you know about because you said you played some
Yes.
of Klonoa 1 also.
I did. Yeah, I
Yeah.
replayed. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I did replay some of Klonoa 1, but yeah,
Okay.
the story is a little bit weird. I guess we'll get into that later.
Yeah, for sure. And it does have a story, which I think is worth even noting because we said, what is it? It's a platformer. And a lot of platformers then they had a story, but it was very surface level, whereas this has kind of a lot of
Yeah,
plot moments, I guess. A lot
cutscenes.
of cutscenes, yeah. Okay. So that's the broad overview. What was your prior relationship with this game? Had you played it before?
I had, yeah. So I had played the original Klonoa, and I don't have strong feelings about the original Klonoa, but at some point, like we had mentioned at the front of the podcast, I had made the switch. I think the first console I had was NES, but I
Mm-hmm.
was in Sony's ecosystem in that PlayStation era, and so I didn't have access to a lot of the great platformers of the time on a Nintendo
Oh,
console.
yeah.
And so as a result, this one was like, hey, this is a solid platformer. And I played this game dozens of times. Like not even exaggerating. I got quite good, 100%ed it. Like I played a lot of Klonoa 2 back in 2001. And I think I must have been like this will date me a bit, but I guess I was a freshman in high school around that time period. So, summer's off. I got a lot of time to kill. I'm broke. Can't play a whole lot of video games. This was a go-to, and yeah, I had a lot of strong affinity for this one.
Oh, wow. Nice. So you're actually one of the few, which we'll get to a little bit later about how this one sold despite its critical reception. I knew about this game, and that's about it. Uh, I
I'm
hadn't
curious to
heard.
hear how you Yeah.
I hadn't heard of the original Klonoa until Klonoa 2 was out. And at that point, I guess I somehow caught through the grapevine, maybe in a magazine or something, oh, this is a great platformer for the PS2. I had a PS2, but I just never got to this game. It I guess like a lot of people, I did my platforming elsewhere, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't enough to ensnare me, but also this was 2001, right? And
Yeah,
2001
2001.
was a year. Which,
I don't
yeah.
know what you're talking about.
So I guess that covers our prior relationships with the game. So we can move right into the game history, and this is what I'm talking about. So the contemporary titles around this time and kind of the state of gaming in 2001 was epic. We had a lot of stuff going on in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And in my notes here, I didn't actually write down everything that was going on in 2001.
Yeah, this is
But
why you didn't play it. You were too busy playing all these other great games.
yeah, I mean that's pretty much part of it. One in particular that I was playing, maybe not in 2001 because it only came out in Japan in 2001, but a game that I will actually come back to later. Played a lot of Final Fantasy X on my PS2 early on, which came out I think in early 2002 for us here, if
Yep,
I
likewise.
remember correctly. But there's a lot going on in 2001, even just in platformers. We had Conker's Bad Fur Day on the Nintendo 64, which I loved, and I was still in that sort
I
of
I
realm.
don't think I've ever played that one.
Oh man, it's like barely a platform. It's more of an action adventure game, to be honest.
There you go, my favorite genre.
Yeah, there it is. Jack and Daxter came out this year. Super Mario World, Super Mario Advance 2 on the Game Boy Advance was another
Mm-hmm.
platformer of the year. Castlevania Circle of the Moon came out. I know it's a Metroidvania, but it's platformy. Pikmin came out that year. Sonic Adventure 2, Wario Land 4. And then you had like the big heavy hitters not in the genre, like Gran Turismo 3, Final Fantasy X,
Mm-hmm.
Metal Gear Solid 2. Um, Geez, what else was out here?
Were you
Halo.
a big platformer at the time? Like, were you into platformers, and are you into platformers?
I love platform games. I mean, I was born with the Nintendo,
I was
so
born on a
everything
platform.
everything was a platformer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fair.
I was basically born on one of those red platforms from Donkey Kong, and I just rolled my way
Yeah,
down
yeah,
to the bottom.
yeah, yeah.
But some other things, Devil May Cry came out this year. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 came out this year.
What a
SSX
glut!
Tricky came out this year. Oracle of Ages,
Oh,
Oracle of Seasons that I'm having trying to speak,
is
apparently. Super
is
Smash
2001
Bros.
like one
Melee.
of? Is this one of the best years in video games ever?
I don't know. It seems pretty good.
It's
Golden
up there,
Sun
right?
also came out. Rogue Squadron 2, Black and White, Civ
Oh,
3, Unreal
oh, black
Tournament,
and white.
Shenmue 2, Max Payne.
We didn't know how good we had it.
Silent Hill 2. I'm just gonna. Okay, I'll stop there. But like, that's a
Oh,
good.
Silent Hill 2 was in 2001. Oh,
Yeah, man.
awesome.
Anyway, so lots of games in 2001, and it was the beginning of the PlayStation 2 era, especially here, right? That it came out in 2001
Yep.
for us in America. So there's a lot of hype going on. We were on the lookout for everything new and exciting. And for whatever reason, this little Namco game didn't make it into my mind and into a lot of other people's hands. Who worked on this game? This was a 50-person team at this time, and the supervisor and writer was Hideo Yoshizawa, who is better known for the Ninja Gaiden games.
Mm-hmm.
This guy was with Namco for
Very
a long
similar, I
time.
guess, to Klonoa, huh?
Yes, exactly the same game. So he clearly moved over from one to the other, but he was responsible for Ninja Gaiden, Ninja Gaiden 2, Ninja Gaiden 3. And then, years later, came over and did Klonoa, Door to Phantom Isle. And the director of this game was Tsuyoshi Kobayashi, who I don't really know much about, but I wanted to mention him because he's the director of the game. Yoshizawa supervised it, but this guy was the director, and the games were a little different. And I read some interviews by this guy, so we got to tell his name. A little bit of the development history. They finished up Klonoa 1, and this game was made in 1997, Klonoa 1. And they started to work on Klonoa Moonlight Museum for the Wonder Swan. The Wonder Swan. What a great choice.
I do not even know what that is. What is the Wonder Swan?
The Wonder Swan was a handheld video game platform that was Japan only, and it was manufactured by Bandai, and it was developed in collaboration with Gunpei Yokoi. Do we know who Gunpei Yokoi is?
I don't.
Oh, he was the father of the Game Boy.
Oh, interesting.
Gunpei Yokoi was an old head back at Nintendo. And
so the Wonder Swan just never hit critical success then,
no.
I assume.
He I don't know, I guess he did his best work with Nintendo. I believe he left after the Virtual Boy. And that was it. The Virtual Boy was his downfall.
It killed him, yeah.
Yeah, then he came with the Wonder Swan, which never really took off as far as I understand. So anyway, this game, Moonlight Museum, was being worked on for the Wonder Swan, and they started Klonoa 2 for the PS1. But they spent more time focusing on Moonlight Museum, and by the time they were back working on Klonoa 2, the PS2 was on its way. So when they finished, they decided to switch Klonoa 2 over to the PS2. Now, the theme behind this game in the development period, their development theme was dramatic. They wanted this game to be more dramatic than the previous game. You remember the emotion engine?
Nope.
The emotion engine was that was what they called the processor of the PlayStation 2 in its early days. Like prior to it coming out, they were all about the emotion engine. I remember it specifically, I think, when they were advertising Eco.
Yes,
which,
yes.
I'm a big fan of.
That's an emotional game. Huge Eco fan. Yeah.
Which also came out in 2001. PS.
What? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So dramatic. They were trying to make the game more dramatic. They could do a lot more with the PlayStation 2 than they could with the PS1. So here's a little quote from Kobayashi from an interview. There were a lot of things we talked about updating. We thought having a true 3D space that you could rotate might be good. But the way I see Klonoa, it's fundamentally a welcoming, approachable game with simple controls, and I wanted that aspect to be front and center. So we decided to retain that and to find new things to entice players by using the upgraded hardware, better presentation and visuals, full polygon graphics, and more robust camera work. Of course, we are planning to surprise players with effects that only the PS2 can do, and impressive camera work. So this was an interview at the time of its release. That's why it's in the present tense. But
I think they hit the mark.
Yeah, it seems like they nailed what they were going to do, and the director of the game said he was fully satisfied with what they made. Although he
like a hearty meal.
Yeah, no, but a lot of times people who make games, they'll say, well, we could have done this, we could have done that. Mm-hmm. And he did say that if they had more time, they could have done more, but you can only let it go on and on forever. One thing they did want to do was add a versus mode, but that never
Interesting.
happened. Yeah, I don't know how that would even work. And funny, this game has a
pretty cool though, to be honest.
Yeah, it could be. Like I almost see it like a split screen race through levels or something. I don't know, or collect the most gems, or
yeah.
Or would it be combat? I don't know. But the only other thing I wanted to mention, because there wasn't a lot about the development of this game, is they and we'll talk about the design of the game later, but one thing that's notable about it to me is that it's a very specific system, the way that it's built, like the physicality of it. And what was said in the interview was that the level designers created the structure and the pathing of the game first in I guess in wireframe or just in basic design. And then they handed over to the artists to essentially turn it pretty and make it look cool and do the camera angles and put in the graphic, put in the whatever they wanted in the backgrounds and whatever.
Yeah,
because they did make it a spectacle.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, as far as sales, This is where he couldn't have been satisfied, because this game sold 133,401 copies in Japan. That's a very specific number during
Hmm.
2001. They expected it to be closer to like 450,000.
Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah. Famitsu reported that the game sold 33,785 copies during the first week. 2001, I feel like we were already seeing really big launch sales. So
Yeah.
that's in Japan. And based on what I know about the game, I feel like it is a more appealing game to the Japanese audience than to the American audience. So I can't imagine, I don't have numbers for it, but I can't imagine that it did much better in the US,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
It's so funny though, because I really do feel like there's a certain cult classic mentality around this game in the West.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that are ride or die Klonoa fans. I mean, I guess I'm one of them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've seen this sort of sentiment where people talk about, oh, big game that is a hidden gem, Klonoa 2, gotta play it. Nobody played it,
Hmm.
but you gotta play it. It's so good. And that's kind of how I know that it
And yet you
exists.
never listen to them.
Well, I did. I did just
Yeah,
now.
that's true. It
Just
just took
now
a
in
while.
this last month. Ports and remakes. Klonoa Fantasy Reverie series came out. That was just 3 years ago. That's a combination of the first and second games on the Switch, PS4, PS5, PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series letters.
Yeah.
Is that what you played?
I mean, Demand then. That is what I played. Yeah.
Okay, I figured.
That's wild because considering how poorly it sold, right? Like that it must have a cult like following in order to justify a remaster 20 years later.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully this one did better. That I don't know. The only other Klonoa games, I mean, there were a few. The Klonoa was a series, but the
Mhm.
first game got remade in 2008, I believe, for the Wii. There was a Wii Klonoa game.
Hmm.
But there were a few other games in between. There was Empire of Dreams, which was a Game Boy Advance game, also in 2001. There was a beach volleyball game. The
Klonoa Beach
Klonoa,
Volleyball?
yeah, I'd
Whoa.
probably like that. I'm a beach volleyball, well, not anymore with my shoulder, but um, then there was Klonoa Dream Champ tournament, which those words, Dream Champ, that's not
Dream
a
Champ.
normal series of words, and it sticks in my mind like I've heard it before. So I must
There
have
was
known
Klonoa
about
Kart
that.
Racing, of course.
Was there?
No, no, there was not.
Oh,
But
okay.
it just
There
seems
should
like
have been,
they're chasing some
right?
other genres here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Then there's Klonoa Heroes Densetsu no Star Medal, which is an action RPG, and that was also
Best
in
genre.
2002. Three games came out in 2002. Then
Wow.
nothing until 2008. The Klonoa remake on the way, and finally the 2022 Klonoa Fantasy Reverie series. So this was about the 26th highest rated game of 2001, according to what I counted line by line with my little eyes today.
Nice.
It won GameSpy's PlayStation 2 Platform Game of the Year in 2001. GameSpy also in 2006 called it the 20th best PlayStation 2 game.
That is that's high up there. Can I just say
Yeah,
that's great?
right? That's solid. I feel like that might be that very article, because GameSpy is no slouch in 2006. That might be something that put it back on the radar for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It was also best platformer at Gaming Age in 2001, and it was a runner-up for best platform game at GameSpot, which it lost to Conker's Bad Fur Day. So you got to play that.
There you go. Yeah.
And at some point, I don't know when this article was, but IGN called it the 10th best. Oh, no, here we go. For the system's first year, it was the 10th best PS2 game, which in
Hmm.
that year, not the worst. Not the worst.
Not the worst. Yeah.
And it had an average score of 91% out of 100, according to Metacritic, with scores like 7 out of 10 from Edge, 8.3 from EGM, a 33 from Famitsu out of 40, 8.25 out of 10 from Game Informer, 5 stars from GamePro, 8.9 from GameSpot, 96% from GameSpy, 9.1 from GameZone, 9.2 from IGN, 4.5
Publishers would
stars.
kill. for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Next Generation looks like the lowest score, 3 out of 5 stars.
Get out of here, next gen. Get
Eh,
out of here.
I think there was a very specific criticism for this, like it was short and over and not super deep, I think is essentially
Fair.
what the guy said. Yeah. So that's what they all thought of it. But what did we think of it? Because we played this game.
We did.
And you already said you played the new version, which I'm under the impression is kind of different, like really updated in terms of fidelity. Is that correct?
I guess I don't really have a strong comparison. It felt accurate to my memory, but clearly that's not reliable. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it did have like a couple of nice features, like I could fast forward things, cutscenes, which are sometimes very long. But besides that, yeah, it felt true to my memory.
Okay. I played the PS2 version, the OG. So, what's our experience? Where should we start here? You mentioned Kirby earlier. Now, here's the thing. I still need to get to the Kirby series because I am not a Kirby guy. But when I played this, I was like, this seems a lot like Kirby. Does it seem a lot like Kirby?
I think so. I think you asked in the beginning, like, is this a puzzle platformer? And I would say, for the first short bit, like the first few levels, it feels much more like a platformer than a puzzle platformer.
Yeah.
But at some point, you start to encounter a lot more enemies that have their own unique abilities, and you have to patch them together in a way to solve a particular problem. And that's where the possibility space of that Kirby comparison lies, right? Like, I love the idea that at the end of the day, Klonoa as a character doesn't actually have a big moveset, right? Like, he doesn't have a bunch of power-ups he can use, does not have some crazy abilities besides being able to flap his ears. By the way, I don't know what kind of a creature this thing is, but he has got this ability to hover in the air for a brief moment, which, to be frank, isn't even all that useful 99% of the time. The fact that the enemies themselves are what give you those powers, I think that just lends itself really well to interesting gameplay. And Kirby figured that out, and I think used it to a lot more success than Klonoa did, but it's there. And especially when you're thinking about like the enemies that will allow you to sort of lightning strike upwards so that you're getting into these weird double jump scenarios where you're lightning up to catch another lightning guy, to catch a flying enemy. That's super cool. I love that kind of stuff. And that's where I think that Kirby comparison is its strongest.
Yeah. And some of the other things he can do, because like, as you said, he can't really do much. He can jump, he can run slowly. And he can grab.
It's kind of lame.
With his little, he's got like a ring that is his tool, and that's what grabs the enemies and sometimes other things in the level. Like he can vault off of stationary objects that are suspended in space. But I mean, that's it. He could do the hover, he could do the jump.
He can look cool with his backward hat.
He can wear a backwards hat, and he could have ears, which we'll get to more later. But from these enemies, like you said, he could do that electric burst upward. There's the one that is a propeller that if you press the button a lot, it makes you go higher. There's the other one that shoots you super high, like out of the realm of where you are to the next area, which is a big thing in this game. You've got the enemies that explode after a certain amount of time. Some of them you have to throw a second time to make them actually explode. Then there are ones that when you throw them against an enemy, they capture that enemy, which then changes their color, and you use them as keys. There are ones that you can't grab too, like this one called the Spindle, which is basically like a piranha plant. And this other one that it's called the Ow-Gow. It's like a giant, it reminds me of the eel from Super Mario 64 hiding in a wall.
Yes.
And sucks things in, comes out and snaps you up if you don't
You got to feed it.
feed it first. So yeah, you're using some other enemy. And just carrying any enemy gives you the basic double jump too, which is like,
Yep.
it makes it always nice to hold on to an enemy if you can.
I kind of wish we were talking about versus mode, but I kind of wish there was a puzzle mode. I love the idea of just, here's a room. You have to figure out what is the right way to platform this strategically to get out. I think I really enjoy some of those later levels when you need to think about which enemy you grab first and in which order in order to do it. Because then it's the puzzle solving mixed with the execution that you're trying to do midair. Like that is really neat.
Definitely. They could do it like a bubble bobble, like 99 levels of just like a set square, and you have to figure out how to get from like the bottom up to the goal or something, or whatever you want to do. Speaking of bubble bobble and games like that, this game it has a sound to it. It has a very Japanese arcadey sound to it, and the voices that are involved feel like old Taito games, and I guess maybe Namco arcade games from back in the day too. It's that gibberish Japanesey sort of anime high-pitched voices that everyone has.
Yeah.
That's
it's like
vibe.
Simlish.
Yeah. But it's like,
what did you think of it? Did you like it, or was that a turn off?
I couldn't stand it. The voices just, it didn't work for me, those voices at all. But
just speaking Japanese, like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Like, you're putting voices, have them say something. Like, and I would even prefer the way they do it in Zelda, where it's just like, huh? You know, like the moans of Zelda. But I don't know, the voices in this are like, they're like kind of creepy to me in a way. I don't know why.
Well, the cutscenes are pretty long, and so at some point you're just listening to a lot of like weird gibberish and waiting.
That's true. That's true. It's a long time. Okay, so speaking of this presentation, let's go right to the character designs and the level aesthetics. Let's talk about the visuals. Tell me your perspective here.
You know, I remember being wowed when first playing this game with the shifts, and it's not like we're not limited in this era to these types of camera work. I mentioned Sonic, where sometimes you'll be side scrolling and then you'll boost through something and it's got this like cool camera work, but I thought it was really effective for the most part. The 3D world is actually not really all that interactable. You can throw enemies at some eggs every now and then.
Yeah.
But I think the flourish of it is really neat. There's
very clever.
A section. Yeah. There's a section actually, I think it's so funny because I think it's actually genuinely the best use of the 3D space is very early on, where there's like a pendulum that you have to throw enemies into, and it's circular. So your side-scrolling platforming is moving from the left to the right, but you're moving through a circular area. Two parts that you unlock by using the pendulum in the Z-axis to break sections. I remember playing that for the first time and being wowed because I thought it was a really neat, like, oh, I'm playing a side-scroller, but there are three-dimensional aspects to it. And then as the game progresses and you kind of zoom through around, I don't think they ever use it to as cool of an effect as that singular moment, but it struck me as something that was still really effective even now.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites too. But I do like it broadly, how essentially if you unfolded these levels, they would just be a straight line, like Mario Brothers one. Yeah. But what they did was they just kind of like twisted them. They took the level, imagined it as a ribbon, and just kind of curled it around itself. There are a couple levels where you walk past the same area a few times, but you're just on different platforms because you followed it all the way around, like a roller coaster almost. You know, the roller coaster's always one track, but you come back around to the same areas and it's all intertwined on itself, and they do that with the level.
And there's a few areas that there are alternate paths that you can take.
Yes.
And they wind through, and you are left at moments trying to imagine what the architecture of this place actually is to sort of justify your ability to move through that.
Yeah. How would you describe the world? What is in the background? How is this world made? It's so weird to me.
It is very weird. So going into it, I know that I'm in a dream space, right? Like narratively speaking, if you've played Klonoa 1, Klonoa is a dream walker, and so he kind of inhabits these surreal spaces. So I kind of know that going in and abandoned any sense of logic as to what is going on. There's a level later on where you're inside of a ship. I don't know how the ship works. I don't know why anybody would build a city this way. It doesn't make any logical sense.
Why
and so
is there
at
a
some
ship
point
here?
I think I just yeah, or like why is there a massive tunnel that shoots you out? Okay, now there's like a railroad going through this town for some reason. Like it strains credulity pretty quick, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I was okay with it.
And it's like it's so many stories high above where you were just walking through like caves that you shot out of and stuff like that. And now the city's on fire too. Like I don't know what the heck's going on here.
It's the drama that you mentioned from that
dramatic.
drama engine, the emotion engine.
There's that one level later on. It's called like confusion, something of confusion. The oh, what's it? Maybe it's the wrong word. It's the one where it's sort of like MC Escher-ish, and you like turn upside down and stuff. It's like a fun house, that one.
Yes,
which I thought
it
was
feels
really
it feels
cool.
a lot like Mario in those moments. The funhouse.
Oh, that's
design.
true. Yeah, like Super Mario World almost, something like that. Yeah. Character designs. I alluded to this, but Klonoa's ears stress me out, man. I don't like them. I wish he didn't have them. I would like his character design without the ears.
Do you want wings? Like how would he do his little float thing?
Magic. I don't care. Just get those things up, because they're not just ears. Like even if they were rounded floppy ears, maybe I wouldn't care. He would look like a floppy-eared dog, cat, whatever he is.
They look like hands to me. Like
they
look
like hands. They look like gloved ear hands, like those hats that people wear sometimes.
Yep.
That have the glove hands attached to them. But in this case, it's part of his body, and he's he's basically like a cat-ish kind of character, right?
To be honest, I was looking up that people call him a cat. I've never thought of him as a cat in my entire life.
Because of his ears.
I've thought about this game a lot. Yeah, his ears are weird. Like he's got whiskers, I guess, but he's never on like all fours. Does he have a tail? I guess he does have a tail, right?
I don't know. I wasn't looking.
I don't know what he is. I don't. Does Popko stress you out? Because that character freaks me out with his weird little eyes.
Yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna come out and say I don't like any of the character designs in this game at all. Even the enemy designs, like I like how they function, but even those are like not attractive to me at all. They're just like whatever. So I don't like any of the character designs in the entire game. Well, let me not say any, but like most of them. I'm sure there are a couple that are cool.
I think you're spot on. Even the design of like the enemy that changes colors is this weird. Like I don't know what. At first I thought these are meant to be creatures, but at some point they start losing their creature.
It's like a pinata
aspect.
That one.
It's yes. It's very strange, and there's like gem stuff jutting out of its back. You know.
Yeah.
You could make this into a horror game, I think, with very little effort.
Sure could. Oh God. You've got that weird like plump shark.
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of like that one actually. Like if I'm thinking about character designs,
chubby enemies.
Yeah, I like the Jetimo. That's the one that fires you up like a rocket straight up. And I kind of like the masks that the basic enemies sometimes wear that make them look like skull warriors or whatever.
The basic ones are cool, I think.
Yeah. Then there's Leorina and Tat, who I don't know.
Tat to me feels like what you would get if you made what are those like a voodoo doll of a cat? Yeah, that's what it is, right? It's like a sewn creature of some kind.
Yeah, it is creepy. It's like a hand puppet of a cat almost.
Yes,
something like that. But these two, they're part of the story. You want to talk about the story a little bit? Because I didn't super get into it, but I know pretty much what the story is. But did the story land well for you? Did the characters have impact for you? Because there was a lot of talking in this game, so I think their intention was to get you attached. But did it work for you?
I think that the character of Lolo is fine. I think she's cool. Like I like the idea of someone that has to build courage, and by meeting Klonoa as a character, sort of develops into having a little bit more confidence.
And this is Editor Eddie jumping in here to say how interesting it was that the same year in Final Fantasy X, we had basically the same character in Yuna with the same sort of internal conflict, but they just did it so much better. Not that this was bad, just that that was phenomenal. But mostly that it was just interesting that this is a type of story for a character that seemed to be popular at the time. Had that written down, didn't bring it up, but I just wanted you guys to think about it.
The Liarina stuff, I mean, she basically doesn't get a promotion and decides to try to end the world. You know, like at some point, I'm just not quite sure. Yeah, what is your deal? Like, and I guess, can we talk about spoilers? Is that okay?
Yeah.
At this point? The idea that the fundamental theme is it's okay to be sad did not quite strike me as effective.
Oh, okay.
Partly, I think, is Klonoa himself doesn't actually seem all that interested in the characters around him. The first Klonoa is like a genuinely moving story, I would say. Klonoa 2, I don't know if he's just jaded now. He's like, I've been to all these dream worlds. Like, it doesn't matter to me, but it doesn't seem like he's as bought in.
Is that in the writing, or is it more in like the animation? Does it just look like he's vacant, or is it in the writing?
I think it's mostly in the writing, because other games in this era had vacant protagonists that still managed to convey. I mean, Klonoa 1, I think, conveyed some interesting emotions. I think it's partly that and partly the voice acting with the gibberish stuff, where it just doesn't really work. But he doesn't respond all that much. Like you don't get the sense that he's into this as much as maybe he was in the original Klonoa.
Okay. Well, he's this poor guy. At the end of the first Klonoa, he was ripped kicking and screaming from that world that he thought he was actually a part of, only to learn that he was this weird dreamwalker. Yeah. So at this point, I could understand him being like, I don't know who I am. I don't care about anything. What is this world? Yeah. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
So I could see that.
I guess in that context, the sadness story could work, right? Yeah. Like, oh, Klonoa is just bummed out. And by the end of the game, he's like, okay, it's okay for me to be bummed out. It's just a part of life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It coincides with his emotions at the time, too. Coincidence? Who knows? Does he go to worlds? Does he create the worlds in his own dream
Does
walking?
He remember?
Or do they exist
Where
before?
Is he really from? What's the
know.
cat world where, like, there's cat people running around?
The handier world.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But like you said, I mean, do you think that it is admirable at this time to even try to have an expansive story in a platformer like this? Because they didn't need to do this.
I think it's admirable, but at the same time,
and to be a bummer of a story, right? Like it's not. I think it's somewhat courageous to say the theme of our story is just sadness is part of life.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is courageous, and I think that's a good message. I don't know that it really hit for me for whatever reason, but also at the same time, one of my things that I wrote in my notes was there's so much dialogue and so many cutscenes, it really makes the case for Mario games not really including a story.
Yeah.
So I felt it was a little bit too much, and it didn't really pull me in, even though I've read that people really praise the game for its story. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's cool, but I don't think it needed it. I think I probably would have enjoyed it without the...
You could not fast forward those cutscenes on the PlayStation 2, correct?
I'm not sure. I think you could skip some of them.
But not fast forward. You couldn't do like 5x speed, which is what the remake allows you to do.
No, you could skip them entirely, which I didn't do because I wanted to see what was going on. I felt like I wanted to skip them, but I didn't feel like that was a good faith way to play the game. So I didn't. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of where I landed on the story. I think it's cool. Yeah, it's cool that it has it, but not necessarily impactful for me. I wanted to mention another thing. When we were talking about how, when you said specifically that you were kind of in awe of the way the game sort of jetted you from area to area, I suppose, because it did a lot of these amazing camera angles that would change, and you would be flying, you would be cannon fired all the way across the world, and it would follow you, and you'd get this wide angle view and all that. And honestly, when I played it, It reminded me of a predecessor to Super Mario Galaxy. Think about that for a
Oh yeah.
second. Oh my God. Yeah, there was the way in Super Mario Galaxy when you hit those stars where you have to shake the Wiimote and then it shoots you to the next island, to the next planet along the way, and the camera's following you. I was like, this is totally Super Mario Galaxy vibes, which is pretty cool
Yeah,
because this
I like it.
predated that.
It also gives you a lot of opportunities to have these dramatic shifts. Like you talked about moving from indoors to outdoors.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
there's a couple of levels. Like one of the coolest transitions, in my opinion, is you rocket up from underground, and then you're above that fiery, burning building railroad, and then a massive enemy comes from the left and just pushes you to the right. Like there's some really cool shifts between those that I think you're right are kind of mirrored in future modern platformers.
Yeah. So maybe the broader public did not experience this game, but maybe Miyamoto did. Maybe he played it. Maybe some of the guys at Nintendo played it on the
I,
Mario team. Who knows?
I think that folks probably paid attention to what platformers were doing on the PlayStation, like out of
Yeah.
sort of business obligation,
Yeah. I also see
Klonoa
some.
does make an appearance in Astrobot.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
so there is at least a sort of recognition
That's
that
cool. Some honor.
Klonoa, yeah, belongs in the lineage, not just of great PlayStation games, but of platforming games.
Yeah. That's cool. And another platform game that when I first started to play it, that it felt again kind of had some of the DNA from was Crash Bandicoot. Being
Yep.
in this on this 2D plane, but with the 3D aspects to it. So it definitely feels like it's right in there in the
Yeah.
evolution of platformers for sure. Like they found a good spot. And now I want to talk a little bit more deeply about the moment to moment gameplay, I guess, because so you go from level to level. The levels are long, and you get to them by going on this overworld map, not unlike Super Mario World or
Hmm.
Super Mario 3, whatever. You click into the little node on the map, and you do a level, which is called a dream. What's it called? A vision.
Vision. Yeah.
Yeah, and in there, you're you're doing all this stuff, you're figuring all this stuff out. Did you find that the gameplay really stayed fresh the entire time? I know you said that early in the game it was very simple, which I agree. That it was when I first started playing, I was like, geez, is this all it's going to be? I hope not. But then it gets more complex. But when you hit a certain point, did you feel like it really stayed fresh and that the pacing was strong in the gameplay moments if we're discounting the cutscenes for a minute?
I think that movement from the beginning of the game to the end is the weakest aspect of it because I think it doesn't get to that good stuff quick enough. But yeah, I think at
Yeah.
some point the complexity unlocks, and I think it empowered them to be more creative with their puzzles. You look at the level that takes place on the Ark, where
Hmm.
you have to throw enemies into engines to blow up the engines. That
Yes.
sequence is nothing like any of the first, I don't know, 3 to 5 levels that you play in the beginning of the game. That through line is not consistent. I do think at some point it unlocks and I'm like I'm ready. It felt good from there on, but I think it takes a little bit too long to get into that pace.
Yeah. Yeah, it did take a while. It was I kept thinking to myself, have I played enough? Is it gonna ramp up? I feel like there's more to this if people love this game so much. I'm gonna stick with it a little bit longer. And then ultimately you get to the point where you're like, oh wow, now I have to use multiple different kinds of enemies. The order that I pick them up matters. Where I'm
Hmm.
standing when I pick them up matters because I can only perform an action from this location to get to the next location or to activate this switch that has an effect on the background, or I have to throw this enemy into this enemy first, collect him while jumping, then into this enemy and
Yeah.
collect him while jumping because it drifts back to you slowly, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of that sort of stuff, I need to use this one enemy that shoots me up through vertically through a box to get to the next area, but then catch this other
Mhm.
one, et cetera, et cetera. So I found like that was really good. But again, like you said, it was later.
Yeah. Well, can I ask you a divisive question actually, or a potentially divisive comment? I think one of the ways they try to patch you through this is with the surfing levels. And I want to know what you thought of the surfing levels, because it feels like that kind of gameplay shift. We saw it in Crash Bandicoot all the time. Many other platformers have done it where they just say, hey, for a brief moment, you're playing a completely different type of game. Now you're going through snow. Did you like that? Did you find that effective to patch you through between levels?
I think I did like the break. I liked the different type of gameplay because one thing about this game is the levels get really long. Like they kind of drag a little bit sometimes.
Even the boss fights become very long.
Yeah. So I think I do like those snowboarding, airboarding moments. And I think airboarding was cool at this time. Like everyone wanted to be surfing or snowboarding.
It's still cool.
Or
what are you trying to say about airboarding?
I love airboarding for then and now. Airboarding for life. That's my political platform. Airboarding.
Yep.
Yeah, I liked it. But I didn't think necessarily that it was great gameplay though. Like if I was looking at it with a critical hat on, I was like, it's fine. But I needed it, I think.
Yeah.
What
I
about
agree
you?
with that. I think it was a refreshing shift. And when it's included mid-level, I think that's a lot more satisfying than the discrete level. Because there is a couple, I think, early on where it's just, this is a surfing level. I wish that they were more bold with bringing in the enemy elements into that, though. Because there's a lot of surfing where you're not really worried about grabbing onto an enemy and using them in a creative way. A couple of times you kind of need to grab onto an enemy to defeat a boss, or you need to grab onto an enemy to execute a double jump at a critical time. But for the most part, they kind of abandon those gameplay elements. I think there's a way they could have wedded them a little bit closer together to make the surfing more satisfying.
Yeah, I don't even remember grabbing enemies while surfing at all. I'm sure I did.
There was one boss where you had to. Yeah.
What about bosses? Like, how did that? I mean, you said that sometimes they drag, but did you like them generally? Did you think they were interesting?
For the most part, I did like them. Talking about the level where there's the pendulum, pretty much all of the boss fights are that is like a circle where a boss is moving around and moving to like somewhere else. I think the best boss in the game is actually not the final one. I think Liarina Corrupted, or whatever that boss's name is, which is basically like, I don't know what sort of horrendous horror creature that would be. It's like, it looks like a tick with really long legs.
Yeah. And she like goes around and crawls underneath and
so she's underneath you and above you. And the lightning enemy, where you sort of zap in the direction you push, I think is probably the most inspired enemy tool or ability. And that boss fight demands it. There's one moment where you have to get it, use it while you're in midair, grab another one and use that one while in midair underneath the boss, timed correctly. That stuff is really effective. I thought that boss was really neat. And for the most part, I think all of the bosses were kind of compelling little mini puzzles in this 3D space that was limited, but nevertheless cool and unique. You know, there's a boss where you have to throw an enemy in the Z axis to hit them as they're spinning around the map. Like that's kind of neat little effective use cases for that Z axis. So I appreciated it.
Yeah, I like them a lot too. I wish that I played this in 2001, because as much as I looked at it now and I saw the spectacle of it and I saw the sort of interesting 3D depth of those boss fights, I think it would have landed so much more heavily on a 2001 version of me. You know, like what had I experienced then? Not as much as I have now. So at the time, I bet it was awesome. Man, I kind of, I'm jealous of people who played this when it first came out, for sure.
I kind of wish they would revisit Klonoa. I think that there is ample grounds for Klonoa 3 to really explore these ideas. Because even the idea of the Kirby style enemies, it's not that common of a gameplay feature. There's ample ground. You know, I talked about this on the Experience Points podcast in the context of Astrobot, but there was a time period where it didn't feel like platform game design was ceded to Nintendo exclusively. And Klonoa represents to me a really compelling sort of dead branch in platforming history, right? Like there was an opportunity to make a different kind of platformer on a platform that was not Nintendo. And at some point, because of sales or whatever, we kind of collectively gave up, and there was limited family-friendly platforming that was not owned by
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo. And I think we lost something. I think we lost something significant in that, decade between, I don't know, 2001 to, Astrobot today, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember listening to that on your podcast and thinking, man, he's so right. Nintendo just owns that genre. Everyone's just kind of said, well, I mean, can we compete with Mario? I don't think
Yeah.
so.
You can't. I
Which
mean,
kind of
that's
sucks.
the unfortunate truth. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. What else? Any other specific elements of this game before we get to our sort of final thoughts? Anything else that you feel like we overlooked or missed, or something that you really want to call out, either positively or negatively?
I will say one negative thing. I think that the readability of the ring is not up to par for the standards of our time today. I think maybe it worked then, but I don't know about you, but there were many times where I just didn't grab an enemy or wasn't close enough. But there's like a little wind animation that I found very challenging to read at times.
Uh,
So there is like a precision that I think a modern platformer has that we just didn't really have at the time. And I think is a big challenge if you're approaching this game from a modern day lens.
yeah. I felt like it needed just a little bit more range, and
Yes.
that would have done it maybe. Like it goes maybe like what, like a little inch on your screen, I guess depending on the size of your screen. But it doesn't go very far from him. It goes
Yeah.
like one vertical Klonoa length, and
Yes.
he's a
Yeah.
skinny guy. So that's not very far.
Yeah.
They should have made it at least as long as one of his ears, I
Or
think.
even just have, like, if this were a yo-yo where there's like a very obvious indicator of where the length of his
Yeah.
reach is, I think even that would have been useful, but it's not
Yeah.
quite as
I
forgiving.
agree with you.
I will say Klonoa 2 is far more forgiving than Klonoa 1. So
Okay.
if you're afraid of a challenge, I will say Klonoa 2 is much more approachable of an experience.
And Klonoa 2 is not very difficult overall, I don't think. I mean, it gets a little bit harder later, but as we said, it takes a while to get there, and it doesn't generally require you to do really tricky stuff. Sometimes you might have to do things a little bit fast, but even then, not so fast.
Yeah.
Like there are chase sequences, which I think are really cool. They're like a fun, again, a spectacle with the camera angles and bouncing around and the thing chasing you. But I never felt like I was in much danger at
Yeah.
those times or at most other times. So the difficulty isn't really here. I would kind of welcome that, I guess, going back to play the first one maybe.
I would probably say a full 50% of my deaths were in the level where you're platforming on like razor thin bridges through
Mm,
space.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just missing.
Just missing.
Um,
Yep.
but you know what? To speak to the difficulty some more, there's a good design philosophy here that we didn't even mention at all. Throughout these levels, there are these gems everywhere. There are some other pickups too. You can pick up these stars that are technically bells for dolls or something that I don't
Mm-hmm.
understand. But the main thing is the gems, right? So you collect 100 of them and you get a life
Yep.
standard. But then you can try to get all the gems as like a challenge, and that ultimately will unlock special levels at the end of the game, which I would never try to do because I'm just not that kind of player. But if you are, then I think that really opens up the difficulty to provide a lot more challenge to reach all of these gems. Because, like, maybe if you're playing start to finish, you see some gems that are hard to get to, you just walk by because it doesn't affect your gameplay. It doesn't affect your game. But if you're trying for them, then that's a whole other
Yeah.
moment that you have to sit and think and puzzle out. And then it becomes more of a puzzle platformer.
Agreed. Yeah.
So I think that's cool. That's cool. It's like there for people who want it, but accessible for people who just want to do the main path.
Yep.
And I like
Yeah.
that.
Not unlike a lot of the extra features in modern Mario platformers and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So here we are at the end of every episode. We generally take a look at these games and we try to figure out whether it was worth going back to play for us and whether we think it's worth playing for someone else in 2025 and beyond. And if it is, well, then it's a smash. And if it's not, well, it has to be a brick because we're smashing
Mm-hmm.
bricks. So, George, what are your
Oh
final
my goodness.
thoughts? And would you call it a smash or a brick?
I would call it a smash. Now, I understand some of it is nostalgia and rose colored glasses. I will say, I think understanding a platformer in its time, in the context of the history of platformers and where those failed attempts never continue to go, is really valuable if you're into platformers. So, at the very least, if you're someone that enjoys platform games, I think it's a smash.
Okay. As for me, I had some complaints about the character design, the character voices, the story that didn't really land for me.
The gibberish.
Mm.
Can you make some of my dialogue into gibberish for the podcast? That would be great.
No, never. I never used the L1, L2 action buttons. Also, never mentioned them on this show because I don't know what they did. Apparently, they
It
do flourishes like to make you look cool.
Yes. Yep, it just makes you look cool. That's it.
Okay. So like I had some issues with the game, but regardless, I would still call this a smash. I think this is a really interesting game, especially considering its time, when it was released and what they did with what they had at the time. I mean, Super Mario Sunshine came out the next year, and when you play those back to back, there's like instantly a different level of polish,
Yeah.
and Super Mario Sunshine strikes you off the bat as like a generation ahead. It's just
Yeah.
gorgeous, etc. But I mean, I called that a brick on this show, and I went back to play it after playing Klonoa, and I still think that it should be a brick because of a lot of problems it has.
Hmm.
But this, because it's a game that's developed really specifically on its system of movement, on its mechanisms, how you interact with those enemies, and how they provide your actions for you, I think it does a really good job deciding what it wants to be and being that. And I love the way it looks from a cinematography perspective,
Yeah.
all those transitions that we were talking about. And I think especially because it was a game that flew so far under the radar and sold pretty poorly when it is disproportionately better than what it sold. So, I mean, even if you decide you don't like it, I think it's worth playing, just at least seeing it. I like platformers generally, and I would say this is a smash. Let's call it a
I'm glad to
smash.
hear that. I was worried you were going to hate it.
Yeah, I mean, I can see this as a game that could go either way for people, but
Oh,
you
absolutely.
got to make a
Yeah.
you got to make a stand.
Yep.
So, with that, Klonoa 2, Lunatea's Veil is a smash and was/is worth revisiting in 2025 and beyond. Cool.
Nice.
Thanks everybody for listening and playing along with us if you did. And go tell your friends about the show. That is the best way to support Smashing Bricks. Another way is to head over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcasting platform and leave us a generous and helpful rating and review. And if you do leave a review, then I will probably read it on the show. Another thing I will read on the show is this shout out to Tins, a super mushroom patron who has joined at patreon.smashingbricks.com. You can do the same for as little as $1 a month with a variety of fun perks at the varying levels, including the Fireflower tier, allowing you to choose games that may be played on an upcoming Power Up episode, as well as getting full-length bonus round episodes at the end of every month where we talk about something related to the main game that month. You can also get recurring shoutouts on the show, like Ms. Muso is getting now as a Tanuki level supporter. Thanks, Ms. Muso.
Thank you.
And if you are super cool, you can even guest on the show with me. So check that out at Patreon. We also have a Discord server, discord.smashingbricks.com. And that, if you don't know what it is a free text, voice, and video chat community where you can leave commentary about upcoming and past games and talk about just about anything. with all the Brick Smashers there. You can find all links to everything, plus all the socials, at links.smashingbricks.com. As for next episode, I will be joined by Nolan of the New Game Plus podcast, and we will be playing Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, or Subsistence, or Sustenance. I don't know what the game's called. It's got like 7 names. But we will be playing that for the PlayStation 2. So get your hands on a copy, play along, send in your thoughts, and join us next time on Smashing Bricks. That wraps it up for today. I'm still Eddie Inzauto. That is George Albor. Thanks, George.
Bye. Thanks.
And until next time, may the nostalgia be with you. Now this music is not okay.